cannot put into your bylaws anything that supersedes national bylaws, which says you cannot.
Where does it say we can?
Okay. All right, the question is, do you already have the right to vote?
Yes.
Under our current bylaws, no matter what your bylaws say, under the current Constitution, the only people or the only delegates that have a right to vote in the state council are those delegates that are elected by their chapters.
Give me a section.
Help me out over there, guys. Get to it. Because I've got too much paper up here.
Leslie, you're making me do this.
No, I'm not making you do it.
Point of information.
Hang on.
Okay.
We are already working on something. Well, I've got the state provisions. All right. Each chapter under state provisions, Article 2, Section 3, membership. Paragraph A, the second part of it. Well, let's just do the whole thing. Each chapter within a state which has organized a state council shall be represented on the state council. At-large membership may be represented on the state council. The number of delegates, a system of alternate delegates, and the voting procedures of the delegates shall be established by the respective state councils, provided, however, that such rules must be uniform in fact and application, must be in compliance with its Constitution, and are subject to review and modification by the Board of Directors of the corporation. If the board in its judgment deems a modification necessary or desirable. Next paragraph. Each chapter shall elect delegates to the state council, and these delegates shall represent the chapter on all matters to come before the council. Chapter shall be responsible for ensuring the attendance of at least one delegate per chapter at not less than 1/2 of all meetings of the state council during the 12 preceding months. The statement, each chapter shall elect delegates to the state council, and these delegates shall represent the chapters on all matters to come before the council, is your membership of your council. Those are the members, the chapter elected delegates.
Nowhere in that part of the Constitution you read to me to say the officers do not have a right to vote.
I hate to say this, Butch, but you're wrong. Because it's very clear, we talk about what's a delegate, and the delegates have the right to vote. Now, and I know that certain state councils have allowed officers who are not delegates to vote. Frankly, and I hate to say this because I'll get an admin at me, we've done that in New York. Really reading this a strict reading of this Constitution would not allow us to do that, which is the reason why the committee is suggesting this change that would give the officers a delegate position with all rights there too. And you know, the idea of parsing out whether you're a voting delegate or non-voting, a delegate's a delegate. The only difference besides voting is the ability to put out a motion and put a motion on the floor and vote, do those kinds of things.
Is that the opinion of the parliamentarian?
Okay.
Ma'am?
I gotta get back to the amendment. I'm getting back to
Mrs. Chair, point of information.
The other thing that is clear in the Constitution, however, is that you don't have to be a delegate to be elected officer. And that's clear in the Constitution. So that is allowable. So you can elect a non-delegate an officer, you know, you got people you like and put them in there. But if they're not a delegate, they can't vote. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is. And that's why you need to change to add this section in here, which would basically make, if you agree to it, and if your state council changes your bylaws to agree to it. Remember, this is not a mandate, this is an option that's being proposed. That would allow the state council to allow the officers to be voting regular delegates, even if they are not a chapter delegate. Some of them may still be a chapter delegate. I mean, that's possible. You don't get 2 votes, you're only going to get the 1. You're only going to be a delegate once.
Point of information. Ms. Chair,
Yeah, I mean, you just definitely, you know, and Leslie brings up something else. All of us up here do not get to vote automatically. We, you know, you may have elected us 2 years ago, but being president doesn't make me a delegate. Ned Foote made me a delegate. I'm a delegate from New York. Everybody's a delegate from their state. Yeah, I'm a large.
We are,
ma'am, point of information.
where are you?
Oh, here.
4.
I disagree with what you just said about the bylaws. And Charlie Montgomery, Virginia State Council President. I disagree with you what you had said about our bylaws that we can't have in there. The reason being, and you should remember this, years ago we were asked to turn our state council bylaws in so they could have a committee to set up to go through that bylaws and tell you if they were right or wrong. We were the first, Virginia State Council was the first one that got them in because I had them with them and gave them to them. And they didn't have no problems at all. And in that bylaws had where the officers did get a chance to vote. So where you got your information, I have no idea. As you said, this has been on the, it has never been on the floor. But that's what I'm trying to put out. How come our bylaws were accepted as written?
Yes, you may say so.
That's all well and good, Charlie, and I understand what you're saying, but the bottom line is the Constitution Committee went back and reread the Constitution. It basically says we're wrong. I mean, you know, we may not like it, but we're basically in violation of the Constitution if you allow your officers to vote when they're not delegates.
Point of information on to.
Contu? Yes.
If this passes, Bob Dillon, 157 Ohio, does this then give the state council people rights to vote here at the national?
No, it has nothing to
It's
do with
nothing but
national.
state only.
State only, yes, sir. All right, I would like to get us organized back to the question. There was a proposed amendment to the proposed amendment from someone somewhere out there, and it, yes, there you are, and it had received a second. The proposed amendment was to strike designated and to add any officer who is not an elected chapter delegate may be authorized voting privileges on the council if prescribed by the council bylaws. Is that the 2? Authorize voting privileges to the council? How about on the council? Voting privileges on the council. Voting privileges on. Okay, so that would be the amendment. We are looking at that amendment to the amendment right now. Okay, so you're going to have to speak to that amendment, not the motion, not the proposed amendment. We're talking to that amendment at this point in time.
Point of order.
Where are you?
Warren Harmon, Chapter
Con 3.
1067, Alabama.
Con 3.
Con 3. That would be in direct contradiction with the Constitution if you allowed the vote on that, because we've already established that they cannot change the national constitution for their state bylaws.
But we are in the process of changing, if y'all decide, we are changing the national constitution. That's what we're doing here right now.
Doesn't take effect.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't take effect right now.
It'd take effect as soon as it is passed. The moment it's passed, it takes effect.
Ma'am, can I call a question, please?
Second the motion.
Who are you?
Tim Driscoll, 310, Michigan. May I please call the question?
Okay, you are calling the question to insert those words to amend the proposed amendment?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, the question... Do I have a second?
Second, Markowski,
All right.
425, Waukesha, Wisconsin.
We got a second. We are voting on, or no, we're voting on to call the question. So all of those in favor of calling the question, which is the amendment to the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Okay, we have called the question. The question is adding...
Information.
Yes, where are you?
Over here. On your amendment,
Con 6.
Dennis Andrews, chapter 553, state of Louisiana. This point.
What is your point of information, sir?
Your proposed amendment that we're voting on is you're changing it to may vote?
No. The proposed amendment, I'm going to read it right now.
All right.
They already called the question. So now we're voting on the amendment to the amendment. Okay, so we are voting on the amendment to the amendment, and I'm going to read that right now. Good. Chill out. Starting to act like my students. Okay, here is the proposed amendment to the amendment. We are going to strike designated as a delegate and put in authorized voting privileges on the council, yada, yada, yada. So the part that would be put in is delegate may be authorized voting privileges on the council if in the bylaws. So it's just changing that from designated as a delegate to authorized voting privileges on the council. Those in favor of that amendment to the amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. The noes have. Do a standing vote. Those of you in favor of the amendment to the amendment, stand. Be seated. Those of you opposed to the amendment. The amendment has failed. Now, we are going back to the proposed constitutional amendment number 19, which says any officer who is not an elected chapter delegate may be designated as a delegate of the council if prescribed by the council bylaws.
Point of order, Pro 2.
Where I can't. Pro 2.
George Housman, chapter 17, Nevada. I believe we've gone over the 20 minutes of debate time.
Where is my timekeeper? The member, the delegate, is totally correct. If this needs to be discussed further, it will need a motion from the floor to extend debate.
Move to call the question.
There is a motion to call the question. Do we have a second?
Second.
A point of information.
Pro 4, okay. Yes, sir.
I got permission to speak?
Yes.
If you pass this amendment, Beachrat Chapter 697, Louisiana, if this amendment passes, you're going to have...
This is calling the question. We are voting on calling the question.
I thought you voted on that already.
No, that was on calling the amendment to the amendment. Okay, let's do the calling of the question. Those in favor of calling the question, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Now you're on. No, you're not on.
No, we're going to vote.
You're done.
You're done.
Okay.
Am I here or I'm not here?
No.
I'm so sorry. I think I'm getting a little confused too. I'm trying to keep it together. Okay, we are now voting to adopt Constitutional Amendment number 19. Those in favor of adopting Amendment number 19, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it.
Point of inquiry.
We're going to do a... Do I need to answer the point of... We're going to do a standing vote.
Yeah. Yep.
On 19, that's right. We require 2/3, not just a majority vote. And it was kind of close. So let's do all of those in favor of amendment number 19, please stand. Point of information is out of order at this time. This is Be seated, please. Those of you opposed, please rise. The motion is adopted. Did that make the point of information go away?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
You're all set, or no?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It didn't.
Con 3.
Anthony Tate, Chapter 223, Santa Rosa, California. I understand when you call for a vote, you ask for us to stand. And I look around, and a lot of our individuals are in wheelchairs and not able to stand to be recognized for that. But I did not hear, I understand, Mr. President, the sheer wave of the hand, but I did not hear that introduced.
Yeah.
I will make sure that I mention that from now on. Thank you.
Can I ask the West to try to see if we can round up some visible sticks so that those in the wheelchair can designate when they're voting?
All right, after consultation with the parliamentarian, we have been advised that the motion that failed, number 17, can be brought back to reconsider. But not at this time. We will do it at the end. Only if the motion is made and it carries by majority vote. It can be brought back. We're not going to do it right now, Charlie.
Point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Gerald
2.
Brown from Nevada. As I recall from past convention, for a motion to be reconsidered, it has to be reconsidered by someone on the presiding side of the motion. Is that correct? Prevailing side.
On the
yeah.
prevailing side.
So in other words, it has to be someone who voted against the motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Point well taken, Mr. Brown. It's Darryl. Okay. Somebody tell me where I am. Well, I thought I was in Springfield, Illinois.